Would you dare board a train that doesn't exist on any map, yet waits for you at midnight? The train had been delayed, and now it was well past midnight. The man hurried along the nearly deserted platform, his breath misting in the frigid air. Overhead, the station clock glowed an ominous red. He was the last passenger. Rounding the final bend, he thought he saw a staircase. But he stopped. He didn't remember that set of stairs being there before. And where did it lead? To another platform, one he'd never seen, its name emblazoned in stark white letters on a green background. Platform 0. He hesitated, then began to walk down the steps. Below him, the platform was unnaturally clean, the benches unnaturally straight. Above him, the fluorescent lights hummed with an unsettling buzz. In the distance, a train sat nestled in the darkness between the tracks, and then he heard it, or rather he didn't. It was as if someone had taken the sound from a departing train and pressed play on a recording. But there was no announcement crackling over the loudspeaker, no echo of footsteps on the platform, no farewell whistle. There was nothing but silence. A chill wind snaked around his legs, rustling the leaves outside the protective glass canopy. The man pulled his coat tighter, then stepped onto the platform. In the distance, the train began to move, gliding forward like a phantom. Its windows glowed with a faint, otherworldly light, illuminating rows of unmoving shadows seated in the carriage. No steam puffed from its engine. No wheels screeched on the tracks. It moved with a disconcerting quietude. He watched it draw closer, an icy dread coiling in his stomach. A voice echoed in his ears, distant yet clear, urging him to step aboard. It was his voice. He recognized it, but how? How could it be coming from inside his own head? He took a step forward, then another. The train slowed, its carriages groaning as they settled onto the track. The door slid open, beckoning him with its soft, inviting glow. As he reached out to steady himself on the handrail, he glanced at the station clock. Its hands were spinning wildly, blurring together in a dizzying display of frantic motion. He blinked, but when he looked again, the clock had returned to normal, its hands ticking away the seconds in their usual languid fashion. But he knew the truth. Time was not ticking away. It was ending. Because as he stood there frozen in indecision, the train began to move again. This time it moved forward, gliding past him as if he were a stationary object, a tree or a building. He reached out a hand, surprised by the sudden lurch in his chest, a sensation of loss so profound it felt physical. And then he smelled it, the faint scent of lavender and old books, of pipe tobacco and wood smoke. It was a smell that clung to memories, whispering tales of a time long past. A woman's laughter drifted from the carriage, tinkling like wind chimes. A man's deep voice rumbled with amusement. A child's delighted squeal pierced the air. He closed his eyes, inhaling deeply. Were those sounds real or figments of his imagination? Was this train taking him to a place he'd never been? Or was it returning him to a time he'd somehow forgotten? When he opened his eyes, the train had vanished. In its place, the tracks stretched endlessly into the darkness. He turned back to the station, shielding his eyes against the glare. But the comforting sight that greeted him was not the one he'd known all his life. This station was unfamiliar, its platforms a jumbled mess, its tracks twisted and broken. He recognized the grandeur of the architecture, the soaring arches and intricate detailing, but everything was askew. And then he saw it, or rather he felt it, a cold gust of wind that seemed to pull at his very essence, carrying with it the scent of lavender and pipe tobacco, of wood smoke and old books. Whispers brushed against his ears, voices that were almost his own. They called his name, beckoning him toward the broken tracks, toward the shattered remnants of a bygone era. He wanted to call back, to ask where he was, what was happening, but no sound escaped his lips. His throat was constricted, his limbs heavy as lead. He turned back to the staircase, desperate to escape the whispers, to flee the ghostly train and the desolate platform. But when he reached out, his fingers met only empty air. The stairs had vanished, leaving him stranded on the last platform he'd ever see. He stumbled back, his eyes wide with dawning horror. He was trapped, imprisoned in a station without a way out, in a time that wasn't his, with a train that wasn't real. And then the train came back, gliding silently out of the darkness, its windows glowing with an eerie light. It offered him one last chance to escape, to outrun the relentless whispers and the suffocating dread. He hesitated, torn between the hope of reprieve and the terror of what lay ahead. The train waited patiently, its doors open, its engine silent. It was a final invitation, a one-way ticket to parts unknown. And as the last notes of the distant laughter faded away, he made his choice. He stepped onto the train, the cold wind snatching his breath away and carrying him away on a journey from which there would be no return. He stepped onto the train, the cold wind snatching his breath away and carrying him away on a journey from which there would be no return.